She's like a sickness in my brain, a vision standing by the window pane. She ripples through the blinds and leaves me in a daze. It's in the way her body moves me, the way she grabs me and intoxicates, until the signals in my mind forget to operate. Fragile skull, I take my pleasure from my alcohol. She'll never give you any time at all. She just comes and goes, you know. And she's got me living in a chemical love, and I try to find the strength to know when she comes back to me again.
Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Coffee and Crime Time. I know it's been like a week or so, maybe less. It's probably been less since I got one of these out. But anyways, I'm back. I've been really busy with the bigger case that I've been doing, the Moore's murders. So that's been taking a lot of my time and my emotional and mental strength. I think it's a really tough one to cover. But I'm here now to drink coffee with you and talk about some crime that's been going on. Before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about the Live Love Polish in Bloom collection. I have been working with Live Love Polish. They gifted me this collection and another collection, and I do love their polishes. Number one, I wore them to my sister's wedding. I was wearing them in the weeks leading up to the wedding, but then I spent an entire week in chlorine and my nails became very dry and brittle, so I'm trying to get them back up to, normal strength so I can start wearing these again. But they're gorgeous. The most important thing about these polishes though is 100% of the net proceeds do go to the New York City bee sanctuaries. So it's all about saving the bees, keeping their fragile ecosystem safe, because without the bees, really there's not going to be much of a world. The bees are very important. Look it up. So if you're interested in checking out the In Bloom collection and supporting the New York Bee Sanctuary to help keep the bees safe and happy, I will put a link in the description box. These polishes are gorgeous and they are color changing too, which I love that. I used to think that they changed based on your mood because that's what the guy at the nail salon told me, because I'm naive, but really they change based on temperature. So Nectar is one of my favorites. It's like this beautiful sparkly pink polish, and then it kind of transitions into a cool lilac-y tone. Lilac-y. The color Petal is also a favorite of mine, and there's a green color in here. I forget what it's called. Hold on. I think it's Dew. Dew, yeah, it's so pretty. I love greens in nail polishes and makeup, so I was really excited to use those. I haven't been able to use all of them yet, but I will. They change colors, they're beautiful, they're long wearing, they take forever to chip. I still have the polish on my toenails from when I was in Mexico like a month ago because I'm too lazy to take it off, and it looks good to me. But yeah, don't judge me. I'm way too lazy to take the nail polish off. I gotta wait till Adam's available to do that for me. So check them out if you're interested. It's a good cause, it's a good product, so I support it. I want to talk about a case that I've been following for a little while now. It's pretty recent actually, but I asked my Patreons a couple of days ago, what kind of a current event kind of things do you guys want to see me talk about in Coffee and Crime Time? And this came up a couple of times, which I was glad about because I was already planning on covering it anyway, so at least I know that other people are kind of interested in hearing more about it as well. This is actually horrific. A 19-year-old named Marlen Ochoa-Lopez, I hope I pronounced that right, but she was 19, she was pregnant, and she was found strangled to death, and her baby was cut out of her. How does this happen, right? How does this happen? This was in Chicago. I'm gonna break down the story for you really quickly, and then I wanna talk about it because I think it's important. I think there's a lot of important implications here as well. So what it seems like happened is Marlen was pregnant, right? So she became part of a Facebook group for pregnant women. And this is a place I guess you can get advice or buy and sell baby clothes or baby items. And she connected with this other woman, Clarissa Figueroa, on March 5th via the Facebook page for pregnant women. And previous to that, she had posted her own pregnancy announcement on her own Facebook page, ultrasound pictures, saying she was having a baby boy, etc. All the information about her pregnancy. So she connects with this woman, Clarissa Figueroa. And essentially this Clarissa Figueroa woman had basically asked, oh, who's due in May? Who's due in May? And if this seems weird to you, you've never been a part of a group like this where, you know, all the women who kind of are going to have babies around the same time, they connect and they have their own little group, because then you can kind of go through the steps together. And then even after the babies are born, you can kind of go through their milestones together. So 6 months old, everybody's baby is 6 months old. And you're like, oh, what's going on with you guys? Are you guys having an issue with like weaning? Are you having an issue with teething? What's going on? So everybody kind of connects who's going to have their baby around the same time. So Clarissa then basically said to Marlen, well, you know, I have baby clothes. You can have them for free. You know, come over and get them. She lured this pregnant woman to her home where her daughter, Desiree, was also waiting. I think Desiree's like 24 years old. And they killed her together and then cut her baby out with the plan to raise the baby as her own, Clarissa's own. Now, it turns out Desiree Figueroa, who was Clarissa's daughter, was also 4 months pregnant at the time. So why did this happen? How could something like this possibly happen? Why would anybody think they could get away with this? So from what I can see here, it seems like they first met with Ochoa-Lopez around April 1st, and they didn't hurt her at that point because Desiree had told her boyfriend what her mother was planning on doing, and Desiree's boyfriend was like, if you guys hurt her, like, I'm gonna call the police. But he still knew that they were planning this, like that this thought was even in their minds, and he was just like, don't hurt her, I'm gonna call the police, not I'm gonna call the police for the fact that you're even plotting or thinking about something like this. So she left unharmed that day. They didn't touch her. And then I guess later on, Clarissa Figueroa told the boyfriend, oh, it was just an April Fool's joke. Haha, really funny April Fool's joke, lady. Who thinks that this is normal? Who is this boyfriend who's like, oh, don't hurt her, I'm gonna call the police. And then when he's told it's an April Fool's joke, he's like, oh, I get it now, that was funny. You guys had me going. So come to find out, Clarissa Figueroa is on this, you know, pregnancy site, this Facebook page for pregnant women, even though she is not pregnant herself, asking whose, you know, babies are being born in May. And this happened shortly after her own adult son died of natural causes. So there may be some sort of mental break here. There may be some sort of psychosis, a traumatic event that caused her to lose a grip on reality. I'm sure she will be given a psychological assessment. So Marlen returned to the home again on April 23rd, and that is when mother and daughter teamed up and killed her and then removed the baby from her stomach. They then took Marlen's body and wrapped it up in a blankets and threw it in a garbage can. It seems like the garbage can that they put her body in was right on their property, because the report says a garbage can hidden in an area next to their garage on Chicago's southwest side, about 4 miles from Ochoa-Lopez's own home. Then Clarissa called 911 and said, I just delivered my own baby at home and it doesn't look like he's breathing. So then obviously the ambulance came to the house, took the baby, and that's when everything started to come to the light. Obviously, they took both the baby and Clarissa, who just delivered a baby at home allegedly, to the hospital, and when they examined her, they obviously found no signs that she had just given birth or been pregnant at all, and she also had blood all over her arms and her clothes. Marlen Ochoa-Lopez's blood, not the blood from the baby that she had just delivered. Now, as far as I can tell from the most recent news reports, Marlen's baby boy is still in guarded condition at the hospital, and he is not expected to survive. But hopefully he does. There's always a chance, there's always, you know, a miracle that he could survive. For the most senseless and insane reason ever, she lost her life, and hopefully her baby will survive, and her family can have some kind of remembrance or something left over from Marlen herself. Now, what seems to be very troubling in this case is after this woman went to the hospital with this baby and said she just gave birth to the baby, and then they looked at her and she had clearly not given birth, and she had blood all over her. The hospital never called the police. They never thought that this was strange. You didn't just give birth to a baby, clearly, medically we can tell. So where did this baby come from? And why do you have blood all over you if you have not just given birth? These questions, I guess, were not pressing enough for the hospital to contact the police department. Now, it says here that the hospital did not contact state child welfare officials until more than 2 weeks later on May 9th. Days after the police showed up at Advocate Christ asking about the baby. State law generally requires hospitals to contact DCFS when there are concerns about a child's well-being or questions about custody. The hospital would not comment on why it waited so long to call authorities, citing patient privacy, of course. They always pull out the HIPAA when they're caught with their pants down. This is a very, very sad story, and I know that people are going to turn this into a, well, you shouldn't share your life on Facebook thing. That's what people always do. That's what they did with Shanann Watts. That's what they do with any woman who puts herself out there on social media, and then as a result, somebody crazy finds her. And I disagree. There's crazy people out there, right? And yes, I suppose you would find yourself under the microscope of less of them if you didn't put yourself out there on social media, but at the same time, why should we, as women, as people, as human beings, have to live that way? Why should we have to distrust everybody who is on a pregnancy Facebook page, who seems to be genuinely willing to help us and help our baby and give us clothes, who seems genuinely interested in our pregnancy? Why should we first think this person wants to kill me and steal my baby? That is not the first thought that should be going through our minds as a society. And I am definitely a suspicious person. I definitely always maintain a degree of questioning things and wondering what people's motives are. At the same time, though, it's not fair to say that a woman was targeted specifically because she put herself out on social media. This was an unfortunate circumstance. The perpetrator was a woman that I believe, even though it doesn't say yet if that's confirmed or not, but I believe that she's mentally disturbed. And Clarissa's daughter, Desiree, and Clarissa's boyfriend, who I think his name is Piotr Bobek? Anyways, both of them are as complicit and as responsible for the death of this young woman and the possible death of her baby because they knew about it. Desiree helped, so now she's going to have her baby in prison, and her baby's going to be taken away from her. She's not going to be able to raise her child. I mean, listen, obviously they haven't gone through a trial yet. They haven't been convicted, but come on, right? Let's be serious here. This is not an allegedly thing. They are pretty much caught red-handed, and they are going to go away for a long time. I hope. Marlen was a toddler when she was brought to the States from Mexico, where she was born. She had always dreamed of going back there to that coastal city in Mexico where she was born and meeting her grandparents because she doesn't remember them, and she always wanted to meet them. Now she'll never have that chance. Marlen already had a 3-year-old son who she loved and was a good mother to. She was the oldest of 4 siblings, and she was basically a mother figure to them, always taking care of them. When Marlen's family was supposed to be throwing her a surprise baby shower, they were searching and looking for their missing pregnant daughter, who they couldn't find anywhere. And Marlen had a husband who loved her desperately, who was excited to prepare with his wife for the arrival of their new baby. And now they have a small baby who's sitting on life support, who the doctors say is going to have brain damage because of lack of oxygen. And Marlen is dead for absolutely no reason, for the most heinous and pointless and brutal crimes that I've seen in a while. But you know what I haven't seen is a lot of coverage of this case. I personally was notified of it because I get the Chicago paper every morning to my mailbox. I get the Chicago paper because I signed up for it when I was researching the R. Kelly case. So it comes to my mailbox every morning, and because it's there, I read it. Not my mailbox, but like my email box. So I read it, and that is how I was made aware of it. But I haven't really heard of her story and her case, even though it is one of those cases that should be getting some airtime, should be getting much more exposure than it's been getting. So that really bothered me that I hadn't heard about it really in any mainstream kind of news outlets. It was just because I happened to be getting the Chicago paper to my mailbox. I'm going to link an article about Marlen and the things she wanted to do. She wanted to be a fashion designer. She wanted to be a singer. She was gorgeous. She was a good mother. She was a good daughter. She was a good wife. She seemed like a genuinely good, hardworking person. And it is speculated that this story is not getting as much attention because of the fact that she is an immigrant. I hope that's not true. I hope that would never be the case. This story needs to be put out there, and that's why we're talking about it first and foremost on Coffee and Crime Time today, to raise awareness for not only what happened to her, but the life that she lived before she came upon such a dark circumstance. I'm sending my thoughts and my prayers to Marlen's family. I'm sending my thoughts and prayers to that little baby who's struggling for his life right now. And I'm sending my thoughts and prayers that Clarissa and her daughter and her boyfriend all stay behind bars for a very long time, because that is what they deserve. Next, I want to talk about a man named Stephen Bradley Mell. He lived in a $3.8 million home. Looks like he had his own brokerage firm, owned 2 planes, a helicopter, and he had a wife and 3 children. But on Tuesday, he pled guilty to charges of engaging in interstate travel to engage in illicit sexual conduct and receiving child pornography. And it says here that he's facing the possibility of 5 years in federal prison for this. So here's the story. This man, Stephen Mel, he met this 15-year-old girl when her mother brought the girl to Mel for flying lessons. 'Cause apparently that's something that he does. After that, the 51-year-old man, the 51-year-old married man with 3 children, began communicating with the 15-year-old girl through Snapchat and text messages. The conversation quickly took a dark turn when Stephen Mel asked the girl if she knew how to perform oral sex, and from there, it was pretty much all downhill. From then on, they began seeing each other frequently at his home. He would sometimes get hotel rooms for them. Even one time, he had to get the Plan B pill for her because I guess he hadn't been careful with the 15-year-old that he was sexually molesting and, as far as I'm concerned, raping. On July 20th of 2017, Mel took the 15-year-old girl, who may have been 16 at that time, but whatever, he took her in his plane and flew her to Massachusetts, Cape Cod, where he, proceeded to do the things to her that he had been doing this whole time. And on the way back from Massachusetts, he put the plane in autopilot and let it fly itself while he continued to engage with her in sexual acts. He texted her many sexually explicit things. I will link an article. He asked her for nude pictures. He did a lot of things that I think warrant longer than a 5-year possible sentence in federal prison. So yeah, this Stephen Mel guy, he hasn't been sentenced yet, so we'll see what happens. But I'm just sitting over here wondering, how does this happen? First of all, I don't want to blame the girl's mother, but how did this mother think, what did she think they were doing this whole time? When he was taking her to Cape Cod and bringing her all over the place, where did she think they were? I would never let my 15-year-old daughter spend this much time with a grown man. And this article that I'm reading, it spent a good amount of time talking about his background and his life and painting him out to be this upstanding citizen, which I'm sure is how he was seen. It says he served as a board member at Westminster School, which is a prep school in Connecticut that his son was a student at. And in May 2017, he received the Unsung Hero Award from Far Hills Country Day School because he was apparently incredibly involved with his community. So this guy's been hanging around children for several years, and I'm sure, allegedly, that there are more children who have been victims of his, and hopefully they come out now and start to speak up and show everybody what a predator he is, because this guy is a legitimate predator. This has not been his first time in 51 years. It definitely won't be his last if he's, given a slap on the wrist and put into a federal prison for 5 years. And this guy's not going to get 5 years, right? He's rich, he has money, he has connections. There's no way, I'm predicting it right now, put it in the books, he will not get 5 years. He might even get off with probation or something. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated on the story. So that's going to be it for today. I appreciate you guys being here with me. I know we talked about some really serious and heavy stuff right now, and that's sometimes what happens. It's fun to talk about things that are lighthearted, and I really enjoy those videos because I get to be more of myself with you guys, and I get to kind of let you see the softer side of Stephanie. But the stuff we talked about today is very serious, and it's scary. It's scary that there's people out there who are going to try to kill you and cut your baby out of you. It's scary that there's grown men out there who look like upstanding citizens, who look like they are not a threat, who look like they wouldn't harm a child, who you would trust with your own child because, this is a man who has his own business, married, kids, obviously very successful. You would never think, I can't trust my teenage daughter with this guy, but you know what? There's guys out there who are just like this guy and just haven't been caught yet. A lot of them. So in my opinion, if your child is under the age of 18, don't send him or her off for flying lessons with somebody that you don't know anything about, really. People aren't always what they seem. You can't trust anybody with your children besides yourself. So that would be my advice, parents, I guess. It may seem like this person is safe. It may seem like this person would never harm you or your child, but you don't know that, and better safe than sorry. I mean, look at the Moores murders, which is the case that I'm, recording now for my bigger case. I posted the first part of on Monday. If you haven't seen it, head over there. But the reason that Ian Brady basically had Myra Hindley help him with these crimes was because she was a woman and she was unassuming, and he felt that children would go with her because she seemed safer. People are not what you think they are, and there are people out there who are evil, but they just don't look evil. Not every single person who has a dark heart looks like they do. Appearances can be very deceiving. Look at Ted Bundy. There's all these instances and all these examples of men and women who turned out to be just the devil incarnate and looked like normal, average, everyday people. And as far as I'm concerned, this Stephen Mell guy is one of them. Allegedly. Don't come for me, Stephen Mell. I hope that you go to prison for a long time, but I know you probably won't. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Stay kind and stay beautiful. Bye.